All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to, I believe, session 6 of Product University. I am so excited to chat with y'all. Today is a much more casual discussion. We are just going through a couple of questions that y'all have sent me and just getting down to some answers that I know you all will enjoy. So without further ado, I'm going to get into sharing my screen. All right, so today's discussion is a Q&A session. And so this isn't a traditional Q&A session where y'all are dropping all your comments in the chat and whatnot. And by the way, I would love that. We can definitely do that in the future. But this one is where we were collecting all your questions at our ritual@riman.com email and just really making sure that these had succinct answers, things that you could take and can continue to share with others as well. And so I am so appreciative of all of y'all who sent in questions. I wanted to give a special shout out to a few people that not only had questions that are selected for today's discussion, but they also sent in multiple questions, multiple emails. So I just love that. I love when you guys are curious and just kind of show your interaction with the products. And it helps me better understand this brand as well. There's so much to learn, so many profiles on ingredients, on products themselves. So together we collaborate to finding an answer essentially. So I wanted to just shout out to Ursula Spargo, Sam Doherty, sorry for mispronouncing that, Jean Kimson, Cheryl Fisher, Lorraine McKay. All of y'all sent in fantastic questions that I think everyone will truly benefit from hearing the answer to. But the other thing I wanted to mention is ritual@riman.com is not an email that's now closed because we're having the Q&A session. It always exists. And myself or a member of my team are always reading through the various emails we receive in the inbox to make sure that you're confident in the utilization of your products. So even if your question did not get answered today, we are going to go through and make sure every question we've already received gets an answer, and then continue to ask your questions at ritual@riman.com. We will continue to support you as best we can. So our first question is a fantastic question. What does brightening mean? Are you bleaching your skin? So this is a fantastic question because there's so many different perceptions of skin brightening, skin lightening. There's so many different values as well in regards to skin tone and skin texture. So, in the US, we appreciate brightening. We appreciate, just things that bring about a more vibrant or radiant skin type. Versus in Asian countries, they prefer whitening often, or they want brightening or lightening products for an overall more pale look. And so it just really depends, obviously, on the market you're in. But of course, in the US, we want to appreciate the diversity of skin tones that we have. And of course, our products are doing the same. So when you talk about specifically brightening, there's kind of 3 different categories of ingredients that often get erroneously clumped together. So brightening, lightening, and then whitening or bleaching. So brightening or skin brightening refers to more so the process of enhancing your radiance and clarity of your skin without altering its natural color. So brightening products are going to be things that really aim to not only improve your texture and tone, but also your skin cell turnover. So that's going to allow more dull skin that's on the top to then slough off and for newer, brighter skin to resurface. So things that exfoliate are going to help this, whether it's chemical or mechanical exfoliators, and really just bringing about a more hydrated appearance. So hydrating ingredients actually can be considered as brightening ingredients. When we look instead at something such as lightening products, skin lighteners do the same thing in comparison to skin brighteners, but they also diminish discoloration. So when you're addressing hyperpigmentation due to acne scarring or hormone imbalances, you're actually kind of looking in towards the reaction that occurs in our bodies that creates the overproduction of melanin or pigment. So this process is known as melanogenesis. It occurs in our melanocytes, which if you remember from our discussion on skin physiology all the way back in session 3, your melanocytes are at the base layer of your epidermis, and so they produce melanin. And it's a very complex process how this melanin comes about, and it has a variety of different intermediates. So a lot of skin lighteners and eventually skin bleachers go into this process to essentially either remove an enzyme that is catalyzing the reaction or removing an end product like melanin. So skin lighteners, when we're looking at them in regards to melanogenesis and in regards to pigmentation, it essentially inhibits melanin production at a safe and regular tone. So for any area where you are overproducing melanin due to inflammation or due to hyperpigmentation, these products go in and address that overproduction to essentially limit the amount of melanin that builds up, which causes the discoloration or dark spots. So skin whiteners, skin bleachers go a step further by completely blocking melanin production, often with harmful or just very harsh ingredients. So it's often advised to stay away from these, or in general, just really do your research, but you're stopping the melanin production that is either your native production or due to overproduction from whatever factors completely. So that is how skin whiteners or skin bleachers work. So long story short, no, you are not bleaching your skin if you're using brightening or lightening products. Really, it depends on the activity of the product itself. You know, is it an exfoliator? Is it a hydrator? Does it have specific ingredients that target hyperpigmentation, etc.? So a fantastic question then to tag onto this is, what products are best to use for hyperpigmentation? So with the appreciation of hyperpigmentation, we then also further have to look into the various causes of it. So you might have acne scarring, you might have general inflammation that is causing hyperpigmentation, hormone imbalances, especially those who are pregnant often find some discoloration on their skin. And then of course, UV damage or overexposure to the skin can cause photo damaging that directly correlates to darkening of the skin. So with our last discussion, with that last question, there's a couple of different ways to address your hyperpigmentation. For example, incorporating more exfoliating, either mechanical or chemical exfoliants into your routine will begin to bring that dark spot to the surface and eventually slough off and essentially remove the pigmentation. And then you also have ingredients that go deeper into the skin and address the melanogenesis pathway to inhibit the overproduction of melanin. So if we're looking for, exfoliation, of course, it's going to be things that are like sugar scrubs, salt scrubs, even those scrubs that have, little nutshells in them, although they are a little bit harsher for the skin. So something like our active cleanup powder, that is a fantastic way to exfoliate. We have chemical exfoliation in that nature. We are using enzymes to remove dead skin cells and to help the cell turnover process occur. Or you can have things with vitamin C or other acids like azelaic acid or ferulic acid to encourage the skin cell turnover. Furthermore, we can look at various antioxidants as well, which essentially deplete, I want to say delete, but they essentially bind to oxidative species that are created and formed in our skin, which often cause inflammation and which are often a byproduct from being exposed to UV rays. And so in this instance, using antioxidants like niacinamide, like byungpul, which is a fantastic antioxidant, can really help decrease the presence of oxidative species in our skin to decrease the possibility of melanin overproduction. So in regards to products, then anything with byungpul or niacinamide is fantastic. And reminder that on Riman.com, we actually have an ingredient encyclopedia that you can go through. So if you go to Riman.com, you click explore in the top right corner, click explore again, and then ingredients. It will show you all the ingredients we have and what products have those ingredients. So specifically for byungpul or niacinamide, it's well used throughout the line. So your booster, your serum, your active cream EX, the biotin products, all of these things are going to provide antioxidants to potentially essentially benefit your hyperpigmentation. And then, of course, if we look towards something like the Radiant Sun 100 line that is more targeted toward things like hyperpigmentation, we have proprietary complexes that involve ingredients as well as vitamins to really just help your skin's health and vitality, as well as the skin cell turnover process. So things like our Vita complex, as well as our RK snowflake, both of these things are going to brighten the skin either because of the encouragement of your skin cell turnover or because the active themselves is actually going in and addressing your melanocytes and your melanogenic pathway. So that's really all it is to hyperpigmentation, to what products. And again, I invite you to explore our ingredient dictionary to find out some of the activities for yourself. All right. Now, this next question is awesome. I get this question quite a lot. So what does FDA approval mean and what products need it? So it's super important to understand that here in the US, the FDA does regulate products or cosmetics via the FD&C Act. So it's the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, as well as the FPLA Act. So this is the Fair Packaging and Labeling Act. However, they do not administer approvals or documentation for cosmetics to go on the market. So the FD&C Act and the FPLA Act just make sure that products are marketed with responsible claims and to ensure that there's no misuse or confusion about the labeling of the product. But it is ultimately up to the manufacturer and then to the brand itself to, display morality and responsibility by ensuring not only the safety of their own products, but the correct labeling and claims to their products. So of course, that is something that Riman prioritized. So not only do we utilize an FDA approved manufacturer that follows good manufacturing practice or GMP practices, but also has OTC certification, which means they are allowed to produce OTC products, etc. And then we, of course, submit various tests for safety and efficacy for our products. What's really important to note, though, is that the FDA does regulate or has a greater attention to OTC products. So those OTC products are going to have specific active claims that need to be backed by an OTC monographed drug. So for example, if you have a shampoo that promotes hair growth or reduction of hair loss, it needs to have an OTC monographed drug within it at a specific concentration, such as minoxidil. So another fantastic example of this is sunscreen. In the US, the FDA regulates various sunscreens and approves only a small amount of filters to use in formula. I believe there's about 13 filters and then 2 mineral filters that you can use here in the US. So for a product to claim that it protects you from the sun, it has to contain one of these monographed filters. And so with that being said, especially with our sunscreen, this is listed and this is something that you can view. I believe it's dailymed.com, and then there's a specific code to pull up the Aqua Protection sunscreen. So if any of y'all are curious about that, I am happy to share the specific code and link. Just feel free to email ritual@remont.com. So all of this being said, some things are going to change. So the FDA essentially suggested an act in 2022 that later was put into effect last year, and that is the MOCRA Act, or Modernization of Cosmetic Regulation Act. So through this act, the FDA has a little bit more control specifically over the safety regulations of products. So it requires various different pieces of paperwork. The manufacturer itself has to be FDA registered, and then the products themselves also have to be submitted submitted with their safety testing. So as we continue to develop and to embrace regulation expectations here in the US, I'm not sure if this is something that's visible to the customer side of it, or if it's something that is just purely between the FDA and a brand, but just know we are always abiding by whatever FDA guidelines are provided to us as a cosmetics and skincare brand. All right. All right, next. So Deep Talk Plus. Why should it be taken before breakfast and after dinner? Does the timing matter? All right, I love this question. Deep Talk Plus is my favorite product, as I'm sure I've said quite a lot now. And it's really unique in the sense that I think it is kind of dependent on each person and on their digestive habits. So for myself personally, I only take 1 packet a day. I take it after dinner, and that's sufficient for me to get the regulation that I need. However, the ultimate suggestion made by HQ on the packaging is before breakfast and after dinner. And I really like to look at it as opening your day and closing your day. So with it being a microbiome supporter and a fiber supplement, you're taking it at the beginning before breakfast to essentially just prep your intestines, not only for the nutrient absorption of what you're going to eat throughout the day, but it also does aid a bit in that feeling of satiety, such that you don't overeat throughout the day, that you feel full after you have your regular meals. Versus when you take it after dinner, that's the cap of your day. So this is when it really comes in to not only detoxify from your previous eating habits, but it also allows your body to start its business and start, digesting all the things that you've consumed throughout the day, such that when you wake up, all that stuff has been successfully digested. So that is the ultimate reasoning for why we suggest before breakfast and after dinner. But at the same time, I highly recommend y'all just play around with this, see what's comfortable for you, and really decide for yourself your ultimate consumption technique, because I know that I found so much satisfaction with my personal experience. And on the line of LIFELING then, I also got a question about the Beauty Collagen ampules. So can you refrigerate them, and can you take too much? So yes, you can refrigerate them. The storage conditions are that you just keep it at room temperature in a darker area, so not in direct sunlight. So if it just improves your experience with them to refrigerate them, especially if you're not adding it to ice cold water or whatnot, go for it. But the only thing to mention then is that some of the ingredients in the ampule may possibly sediment out. And so that just means that you're going to have the liquid in the ampule, but you might have some sediment at the bottom of various ingredients. And that's okay. You're consuming the whole thing still. You're still getting the benefits upon consumption. It just might just a bit interact with the ultimate perception of the product when you're taking it. Can you take too much? So this is a great question because I know some people that take a couple a day, especially if you're talking about it and you keep taking them. Ultimately, there's not a huge concern for taking too much. Collagen itself is a protein, and then if you are taking enough that your body cannot essentially accommodate how much it has, it's just going to pass through as waste. So HQ obviously tested the benefits on it and found that the greatest recommendation is for single ampule a day. So I do suggest you stay with that use level just to maintain not only the benefits but to not waste the product. But it will not essentially hurt you if you take more than one. But don't be taking 10 or anything like that. By that time, I can't claim if anything will happen. But yeah, one or two is fine for y'all to take. All right. Okay, another good question. All these are great questions. That's why they're in the presentation. Why don't the coverage products have SPF? Can you mix the sunscreen and Daily Aqua BB? And the reason I love this question is it's something that I asked myself when I first started with Riman and I received all the products and the BB cream and the luster cushion. And I, as an American, am so used to having BB or CC creams with an SPF. That's just something that I always understood. So I was interested why we didn't have an SPF in our BB cream. And there's two main reasons why. The first and probably the greatest is formulation compatibility. So when you are formulating, there are two different categories of filters you can use. You can have mineral filters, of which there are only two, and then chemical filters. So the mineral filters are going to be titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. And both of these are powders, they're minerals. So oftentimes they're either pre-dispersed in a mix of something by a supplier, or they have to be dispersed in formula by the formulator. So this makes it a little bit difficult because if you are incorporating a pre-dispersed mineral, then you're going to obviously have to account for that extra ingredient that is dispersing the titanium or the zinc. And then, of course, if you are dispersing it yourself in your formulation, you have to make sure there is zero clumping in formula and that there's essentially an even spread of the product upon application. So it really restricts the variability of other ingredients you can use, other emollients, other thickeners, especially because these filters and these minerals do kind of slightly alter the pH of a formula. They alter the charge of a formula. So certain things can actually, if you added a filter, it could break the entire formula and it just becomes water, etc. So it's very careful how formulations with SPF are created. You're also restricted to specific formulation types. I won't get too much into detail on that, but the emulsions that you're enjoying, such as lotions or shampoos and conditioners, have different formulation capacities in regards to if the water is added before the oil after the water, and then they're emulsified. All of this is actually taken into account when creating formula. So the biggest then in that case is that we wanted to focus on the sensory aesthetic and the other active ingredients in the BB cream and in the 4D luster cushion over the potential for SPF, which would restrict us in our formulations. The second thing, however, of course, is Riman at its root is an opportunity for you to create your own ritual. And so if we were to create an SPF coverage hybrid product, sometimes this would limit an individual in their creation of their ultimate ritual. If someone is allergic to sunscreens or they have a coverage product that they prefer, which is totally fine, essentially using something that has both SPF and coverage or tint might hinder their ability to kind of think outside the box and to create what they want for their skin. So we really wanted to look towards the ability to layer things, to enjoy multiple different benefits and multiple different products on your day-to-day. So absolutely you can mix the sunscreen in the Daily Aqua BB. This is something that we even suggest on our flip chart, but it's a great way to not only get a more fine tint on your skin if you're looking for a lighter coverage, but then of course to get some of the SPF benefits. But just make sure you're adding enough SPF to get the protection that you're needed. I believe it's enough to cover or what's it called? It's about a quarter sized amount. That might be too big. Like a nickel sized amount of sunscreen is sufficient to cover your entire face. So the answer is yes, absolutely. Go ahead and combine your products, but we just kept them separate to allow people to modulate as they desire. Right. Another question that is so often asked is purging possible with the skincare products? So as I'm sure y'all know, purging is a side effect of starting a new skincare product or routine in which skin cell turnover rate is sped up. So because of this, new cells that, were deeper essentially in the skin start coming up and bringing with them pre-existing blockages such as comedones, pimples, pustules, even dark spots. So purging is most often noticed with harsher actives, like retinoids, for example, is a great example of when purging occurs, or people who are on really harsh topical acne medications might have their acne get worse before it gets better. That's not to say, however, that it isn't possible for a gentle line like Riman, especially with the Dermatology EX or Radiant Sun 100 line. If your skin was previously compromised, either in its hydration balance or in its cell turnover, such that it was a delayed cell turnover. It was taking longer than normal because your skin was lacking some content, be it hydration or moisturization. Then the sudden increase of hydration and moisturization because of your utilization of the Riman products might have some purging occur because it's kicking your skin cell cycle back into gear and you're bringing older blockages to the surface. That being said, if you experience any issues, be it inflammation, spots or breakouts after 4 weeks of treatment, which is considered a full skin cell cycle, that's when you might be experiencing, perhaps an allergic reaction, or there's another step within your routine that is lacking. Perhaps you are over cleansing and you've disrupted your barrier, or you need to incorporate another product. So with that being said, if you do experience things like that after that 4 weeks, please feel free to reach out again at ritual@riman.com, and we'll make sure to work with you to find hopefully an answer for your concerns. All right, this was an interesting question, but I got asked multiple times, so that's why I included it. Can the skincare products react with chlorine? And the second question was someone that actually was going to, I believe it was water aerobics twice a week, and they were using the products beforehand and wanted to see if that, if that was reacting at all with the chlorine. So chlorine, of course, is a chemical. It's extremely drying of the skin, and it's able essentially to strip the skin and hair of your natural oils. So its pH level is around 7 to 8, which puts our skin in an alkaline state, which causes that dryness, itchiness, and irritation. And it can especially exacerbate eczema. Oh my gosh, eczema. So that being said, then, what I find best, especially as a pre-swim routine, and what experts also suggest, is making sure that your hair and your face or your body is covered with an oil-based product. So if you are applying your skincare routine and then getting into the pool, more likely than not, it's going to wash off, especially with the Riman routine, especially with Dermatology EX. That's a very water-rich formula. And so water loves water. It's just going to be attracted to the body of water that you're in. And so if you were to do any skin prep before you were swim, of course, you can still do your routine, but it's not guaranteed that all of it will still be on your face when you get out. What's most important is, of course, immediately treating your skin after you get out to cleanse and remove that chlorine and to bring back hydration and moisturization through your products. So if you wanted to have some kind of routine before you got into the pool, then I suggest, like as they had mentioned, either saturating your hair with conditioner before you get in or an oil-based product, and then your face with an oil-based product. So something like the Biotin Multi-Stick Balm, that is an anhydrous formula. So it might feel a little weird putting it all over your face, but maybe put it in just the key areas that you want to protect, and it should withstand you for your activity, of course, if you're not rubbing your face too much. So that's that on that. And then another question, washcloth versus your hands, which to use when washing your face? And I love this. And I love the concept of incorporating tools into your routine. And it's something that I very much recommend people do. If you're using a gua sha to shape your face, or even a dermal roller, things of that nature, I love. But specifically with a washcloth, the washcloth itself is, it's a bit of an exfoliant. It is a mechanical exfoliator as you're rubbing it across your face. And so the other thing is that it can harbor bacteria. So I personally recommend using clean hands throughout your process, just to ensure no bacteria deposition on your face. And then, of course, no over exfoliation of your skin. But if you do find a washcloth to better assist you in your cleansing routine, just make sure you're being very gentle with it. You know, just not pushing super hard on your skin, just kind of using it to lightly rub about your products, and then try to switch out your washcloth every couple of days to maintain the bacteria balance. But other questions, you know, in terms of using cotton pads or cotton balls to apply your toners and all that good stuff, everything is open to you, what's more comfortable for you. For example, I often get the question about the cotton pads, and I always suggest to put the toner, whether it's, you know, the Radiant Sun or it's the serum as well. I actually put it in my hand or directly on my face to actually minimize the absorption or loss of product that occurs when you're applying it to a cotton product, which is going to absorb some of your formula. So things of that nature is entirely up to you and your comfort with your routine, but we each have our own opinions on it, so to speak. All right. Just a few more questions now. The next question is, and one I didn't even think about, but it's a great question, is 40 luster cushions, should you wash the applicator? Absolutely. You should be regularly washing anything that comes in constant contact with your face upon application. So something like the 40 luster cushion or makeup brushes, if you're using them, even if you're using a gua sha or a face roller, you should be cleansing it every once in a while to minimize bacterial exposure. So with the 40 luster cushion, I treat it as if it was almost a, what's the word, like a beauty sponge. So I actually just use dish soap to clean it, or you can use shampoo, whatever just gets you to essentially remove any of the existing product on it and to really make sure it's bacterially clean. So even antibacterial soap could work, but absolutely, I think that's a great idea, that cleansing the applicator. All right, can you use additional hair care products with the BOTALAB Dessert Cola line, curl mousse, purple shampoo, etc.? Of course, of course. So we love the BOTALAB hair care line because that Dessert Cola, that nettle extract, the camellia is so beautiful for so many different hair types, because at the base, we are looking at the health of the scalp, which your hair then, of course, grows from. So as long as your scalp is healthy, your hair is healthy. And then with that finishing product, with that oil serum, you are getting that nourishment and that refinement of your curl pattern or of your hair if it's straight, whatever it may be. But we understand, especially with curly hair, there's a lot that goes into maintaining that hair type. And so we respect that entirely and encourage you to still use your curl mousses, curl creams, your curly girl method in general, whatever makes you comfortable with your hair. But just know that BOTALAB is there to support your hair health, as well as to bring that shine and that repair to your strands, especially damaged strands. So a lot of people that don't have as curly hair, you can entirely have a routine with just those three products, especially with that hair oil serum, because it does so many different things to finish off your hair care routine. It not only adds shine, but it reduces frizz, increases volume, adds heat protection, and just makes your hair look almost styled, even if you had just air dried it. But absolutely, you can use other products. We are not here to say you only have to do Riman, but we just suggest, of course, to use ours to keep succinct with the benefits that they offer. And then another question that kind of tags to this is, someone had asked me how the Dessert Full line is going to affect the growth of their hair. So of course, just as the natural passage of your hair follicles, they're constantly shedding hair, they're constantly growing new hair. The Dessert Cola line will not affect your hair in the sense that it'll suddenly grow straight. Your hair follicle is at a slight angle, which causes the curl to occur, versus someone with straight hair like myself, the follicle is pretty much straight up from the skin. So the loliolide, which is that metabolite in Dessert Cola, is not going to change the angle of your follicle. So that's that on curly hair and BOTALAB. All right, last and final question. Radiant Sun 100 versus INCELLDERM. When do you use the lines, and what skin type is best for each skin? I don't know, or each line. I don't know if y'all were reading my mind, but this question was such a good question and something I get so often that it's actually next week's topic. So that is all for this week on the Q&A. Next week's topic is on Radiant Sun 100 versus INCELLDERM, what the different lines are offering, the different sensory experiences, what to suggest to someone depending on their skin type, and then of course, what are some of the main ingredients that are highlighted that are doing the activities for each line. So next week's going to be a great one. Session 7, we only have 2 more sessions left, but thank you so much for listening to me essentially read a bunch of questions and then answer the questions. I wish I could be talking to y'all and hearing your questions and giving answers, and that'll of course come in due time. But for today, I hope I was able to provide some clarity on something that you may have been wondering. But I will see you all next Wednesday. Thanks for joining.